President Trump was furious over the weekend after a bombshell report came to light on Saturday, seemingly alleging the FBI had hundreds of plainclothes agents in the crowd during the January 6th Capitol riot. The president posted to Truth Social, quote, "It was just revealed that the FBI had secretly placed, against all rules, regulations, and protocols and standards, 274 FBI agents into the crowd just prior to and during the January 6th hoax. This is different from what Director Christopher Wray stated over and over again." That's right, is it? Now turns out FBI agents were at and in the January 6th protests, probably acting as agitators and insurrectionists, but certainly not as law enforcement officials. I want to know who each and every one of these so-called agents are and what they were up to on that now historic day. Trump ended it with a jab at his former FBI director, quote, Christopher Wray, the then director of the FBI, has some major explaining to do. That's two in a row. Comey and Wray got caught lying with our great country at stake.
Now, despite the president's post, the report wasn't exactly clear if the 274 plainclothes agents were in the crowd that breached the Capitol or in other protest crowds. Following that report, FBI Director Kash Patel threw a wrench into the president's narrative, telling Fox News that agents weren't called in prior to the violence, instead saying, while the agents were on hand, they were sent in after the riot had begun to try to control the unruly crowd. Fox also reports Patel told them that it is not the proper role of FBI agents and said Wray was not forthcoming about what happened when he testified numerous times on Capitol Hill. Now, Patel later clarified on social media, quote, 274 FBI agents were thrown into a crowd control on January 6th against FBI standards. That failure was corrupt leadership. That failure was on corrupt leadership. Thanks to agents stepping up, the truth is coming out. Transparency, justice, accountability.
Okay, this is a little bit complicated. I'll be honest, and I don't necessarily believe that the agents were all there sent as crowd control afterward. FBI agents get sent for crowd control? That's the work of garden variety law enforcement, or they should have sent the National Guard. Makes no sense. Maybe it's the case. Maybe they were stupidly sent in for that role. That does seem like a failure. What I think is that the FBI doesn't want to admit that it did have agents embedded in the crowds of the gathered January 6ers. This would not be surprising at all. The protesters were largely consistent of, patriot groups and militia groups and the Proud Boys. Those organizations have FBI agents deeply embedded at them at all levels, at all times. In fact, the leader of the Proud Boys himself was an informant for the FBI. The FBI is very good at infiltrating right-wing organizations and then inducing the people in them to commit crimes so that they can then arrest them.
Oh,
but that's true.
What?
That happens. That absolutely
You're going to make somebody commit a crime. No, if you're a bad person, Robbie, I'm sorry to tell you, this is simple. My mom told me this when I was young. You're just a bad person. Nobody can induce me to commit a crime, no matter what organization. Nobody can pay me enough to commit a crime, is what I'm saying.
Okay,
there's not a world that I'll say yes to that. So if you're a bad person, you do a bad crime. If you're a good person, you won't do it.
For instance, in the Gretchen Whitmer fake kidnapping, the FBI paid participants in that scheme to continue organizing it, to induce the other people involved in it, to try to buy weapons to do it, so that then when they go to charge them, they have evidence. They can say, here's where you tried to purchase weapons. They never would have gotten to that level unless the FBI had been instructing them to keep going. They do this, by the way, from a more lefty sympathetic standpoint. They also do this to young Arab American men. They reach out to them in chat rooms and say, would you like to do terrorism against the United States, and they induce them to agree to do it so that they can arrest them. So it's not just right-wing people who are the victims of this scheme. It's also left-wing people, would-be Islamic extremist people.
So just, again, there's no hard evidence here. This is just Trump and his team trying to distance themselves from January 6th and the fact that they pardoned people that actually hurt people on our Capitol, hurt police officers, everything that the Republican Party is against.
I'm sorry, going off the radar I was talking about, they're just freedom fighters who had this message of freedom and wonder, and I hope Cuba can take it.
So why, they should go to Cuba, because Trump literally is saying that the FBI secretly placed people, show the proof. He just randomly calls out statements, and we're supposed to just believe Kash Patel, who doesn't even know how to say a firm sentence. Well,
if we're not believing Kash Patel was the one saying they were sent there as crowd control. So you don't believe Kash Patel.
I don't believe any of them. I feel like they're uncoordinated. I feel like they're not having a conversation about what the plan is, and hey, we're going to stick to this plan.
Well, that
also,
I agree with.
Hakeem Jeffries was on MSNBC and just flat out said what most people are thinking. Donald Trump is lying to the American people in the events of January 6th. He can't justify the fact that he helped to incite a mob of violent individuals who attacked the Capitol as part of an effort to reverse and undermine the results of the 2020 election. That's what he's saying. This is what this is all about.
Well, the agents were there. I mean, the question is, were they there, as I suspect? Maybe they could have been in multiple roles, and some of them were there, again, embedded in the crowd. And then the question becomes, were they instigating people? Because it is easier, again, to arrest people once the FBI has instigated them to commit some crime. Or were they there as a response, as crowd control, which is baffling to me, but maybe the case. That's what Kash Patel is saying he was told. But I don't necessarily trust him to do a good enough job here to well, that's what they're telling you to cover themselves. Can you actually get to the bottom of that? You're right that they're not on the same page about it. Trump, Patel,
and
Ray.
We just can't rewrite history. And we also just can't, we know that Trump surrounds himself with loyalists. So the fact that if somebody doesn't fall in line with his message is, then that becomes problematic. And we already know that Kash Patel, according to the latest hearing that he had on Capitol Hill, seems like he might be considering that he's losing his job soon, so he might just switch by tomorrow. We might see him saying something different. So that's concerning to me to figure out what actually happened. I'm not going to believe Kash Patel or President Trump when it comes to
if he wanted to protect his job, though, he would have said Trump's right. We got to get to the bottom of why these agents were embedded. And what he said was, no, that's not what they were doing. So I don't know. I don't know who's right. I can't tell. But it is very interesting. It's more complicated than we were led to believe. Because I think, wasn't it Ray who had said, yeah, there were no agents there? Well, that's not true. There were agents there.
But also, Trump appointed and nominated Ray into his position. So now he's attacking Comey, attacking
Pence, and we're over that.
And Pence was also one of the people that they were going after the most on January 6th, fearing for his life.
Yeah, he picked people who didn't do what he wanted, and he regrets it. What's the gotcha?
I mean, he put people in position now just to criticize them because they weren't extremely loyal. Pence was more loyal to our country and to his constitutional oath rather than the president, and he didn't understand that. It didn't click in his mind that that's an appropriate thing to do as a government official. Not be loyal to Trump, be loyal to the Constitution, to the oath of office that you've taken. That's important. So the fact that he wants to dismiss everybody that cares more about their actual position than him is kind of wild. You should probably be uncomfortable with that.
I'm very curious about this. I would like to know a lot more about when the agents arrived, what was the thinking of that.
What will that change, though? Violent people attack the Capitol and hurt and kill people.
Well, if they were
going after our Congress leaders.
Do you know who Ray Epps is? You're probably unfamiliar with this.
No, I don't.
So there was a guy the day before. He was a participant in the events, but the day before.
Oh, I think
he's on camera saying, what we're going to do tomorrow? We're not going to stop. We're going to go into the Cap. We're going to go in. And the people around him go, no, we're not breaking any laws. No. And then the question is, are there figures like him who are inciting the crowd to actually take unlawful actions? Now, what I witnessed when I was there was that it seemed like a spontaneous riot breaking out. I mean, I've seen crowds turn, and it seemed to me like that was the behavior.
You were on the Capitol?
Yeah. I lived right. When I found out there was going to be. I was a journalist, not as a supporter of the president. I went to
cover it. Okay, got it. Understood.
So I watched it happen. It was horrifying. I got pepper sprayed in the face. You couldn't there's a cloud of it coming my way. I was like, how bad can this be?
So even if the people, let's say, were induced, in your words, by agents, does it still absolve them of the crime? You feel like, the pepper spray.
I'm not saying it absolves them of the crime. I'm just saying I wish our law enforcement would spend less time trying to trick people into committing crimes so that they can pad their conviction rates. You know what I mean?
Okay, we can agree on that.
I'm not saying it gets them out of their responsibility. It's like, wouldn't it be great if we had a government that was going around trying to convict people? I mean, this goes to the conversation we're having about Comey's behavior and Trump's behavior and everyone, is that it is very easy. People don't understand unless they've paid very close, granular attention to the criminal justice system, as I have in my capacity as a reporter, as a libertarian reporter who writes for a magazine that focuses on civil liberties. The power of the criminal justice system, the law enforcement system, to get you is really because people naively say, well, if you did nothing wrong, you're fine. You've done things wrong you can't even conceive of. So that's just the general lesson.
This is like a whole nother conversation. I know we don't have time, but yeah. I like where you're going with this. I think we might agree.
I got a traffic ticket the other day, speeding ticket. No idea. I was going 36 in an area of the city.
You would use the most calm numbers, 36.
No, it was 11 over. It was the bare minimum they'll ever charge you for anything. In a 25, I guess, because for this one block of the street, it switches from 35 to 25. And did I know I was committing a crime? No, of course not.
But you were.
But I was.
And good thing you weren't induced to do it. It just was your choice to go too fast.
I guess it was my choice.
Former Fox News host Megyn Kelly is drawing criticism for her refusal to speak out against some of her fellow right-wing commentators like Owens and Tucker Carlson. Both have been accused of spreading conspiracy theories and promoting anti-Semitism in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death.
Their comments came as debate continues within conservative circles on the touchy subject of how much support the U.S. owes to Israel. Megyn Kelly has responded to those calling for her to separate herself from Owens and Carlson by saying, quote, "I'll have no obligation to separate myself from anyone. If you need me to condemn Candace or Tucker for their opinions in order to listen to me, then I may not be for you. He's a close friend, and she is under enough pressure without gratuitous shots from me. My fight is with the left, not with these two." That post from Kelly sparked some backlash. Russian political commentator Konstantin Kisin replied to Kelly saying, "The problem with this approach, which many on the right are taking, is that this is exactly how the left allowed its own extremists to first flourish and then to become the face of the entire movement." And Babylon Bee managing editor Joel Berry writes, "Loyalty to friends above all else is an admirable trait. It makes you a good friend. I'm not sure that's a luxury afforded to trustworthy journalists, however."
However, there are others on the right who agree with Kelly that there needs to be less infighting between conservatives. Former Fox contributor Brianna Morello says, quote, "Kudos to Megyn Kelly for not giving in to the mob. We can have a difference in opinion without attacking or disowning our friends."
Yeah. Ugh, I hate Brianna Morello.
And you hate everybody after we come out of a quote. You hate everybody. You hate Candace Owens in there too. You hate LeBron. Like, you hate everybody today.
I do hate Brianna Morello. I don't hate Megyn Kelly at all. I like and appreciate Megyn Kelly. I don't know her personally, but I think she's a fantastically talented conservative personality, and I often agree with her takes. Tucker, our viewers know, I do know a little bit. I worked for him many years ago, and I was on his show when he had a show on Fox, and I've learned a lot from him, and I like him a lot, even when I disagree with him, which happens with some regularity, as it happens with everyone. Candace, I don't know at all, and I hold in very low regard.
And you love her.
So I'm all over the place on this. I agree with Megyn. I understand where Megyn's coming from. The being pressed by people online you don't know to condemn someone you've been friends with or you've associated with is really annoying when people do it. I would never do it. I say, why haven't you condemned? It does make you want to double down on your support for that person. And you can be friends with people you disagree with. You can be friends with people you really disagree with. I think that's a good impulse. That's different than saying that they're right about everything. And I'm more talking about Candace here. I think she has an extreme anti-Israel axe to grind that I don't even necessarily disagree with aspects of her program there. I, too, think Israel has gone way too far in this war. I, too, don't want to give them military support from the U.S., so we'd have a lot of points of commonalities. I think she routinely says things that are incorrect.
But you don't make it your business to try to tweet about Candace Owens and condemn incorrect each time.
I make fun of her in tweets every now and then.
But do you do it as often as, like,
exception.
Let's say, oh, you do it more often than not?
Well, every now and then I make a meme about her or something.
Okay, well, I was going to argue that you have better things to talk about, like actual policies on the other side of the aisle that you really disagree with, that I generally see you tweeting about.
I have a hard time taking her seriously because she comes from a background that is suspect to me. She was a if you go back, she's held every political position under the sun at various points in time.
Okay,
so
has Joe Rogan then at this point. Like, you have to allow nuance and people to come into. President Trump is not a normal president. He's not a traditional Republican.
I think Joe Rogan's attitudes are steered by the interesting conversations he has and
You're giving him all the excuses. He never told you that.
Genuine ideological. Well, he talks for 3 hours every day. I've listened to a fair amount of him. I think his thinking evolves, and it's. What can I say? I think it's genuine. With Candace, I think it's not genuine. I think it has to do with who her audience is and how she makes money. And she started. She started as a left-wing person. She's held every view on Israel under the sun. I know I beat up on her a lot, and maybe people watching are big fans of her. I am not. That's just a difference of opinion we have. But I don't need Megyn Kelly to throw her under the bus. But it sounds like Candace is not even a close friend of hers necessarily.
Yeah, she was very clear that Tucker Carlson is her actual good friend.
She's under enough pressure already. She
doesn't want to pile on.
Facing is, well, I don't like.
I mean, she's getting sued by a foreign government right now. She's like, got a lot going on.
Well, because she made
she started, but I'm just saying she
hasn't. Like even Nick Fuentes thinks Candace Owens is nonsense. I mean, doesn't that tell you something?
With Megyn Kelly, to circle back to her, I liked her response. It said, it reminded me of my personality. Like she said, quote on a tweet, the more one insists that I say what one demands me to, the more committed I get in my refusal. And I was like, you know what? Go ahead, stand on business, because you don't have to do anything. The freedom
I'm
of
not asking her to do it.
Right, and the freedom
I like
of
her.
The freedom of looking at somebody like your best friend Don Lemon, or like Megyn Kelly, who both have went on to go start media empires and growing.
I hold Don Lemon and Candace Owens in about the same low.
Well, that's ridiculous. But let me finish. So the fact that they both went on to go start their own things and are allowed to freely and autonomously use their voice is something that I think admirable on both ends of the spectrum. And the fact that they're doing it their way is something that's also admirable in this time where you call a lot of traditional mainstream media kind of dated and outdated. And so therefore they're just blazing the trail and they don't have to conform. They don't have any boss. That's the beautiful thing about young people creating this in this creator economy. A lot of people don't have a boss besides themselves. They have to just stay relevant to whomever is subscribing to them and continue to talk about things that matter to them. And so people subscribe to Megyn Kelly because they like her perspective and the way she presents stuff. That doesn't mean you always have to agree. But if you feel that you always have to agree, then she said specifically, you don't belong here. Adios.
Well, and she had great advice. I saw her. She was at a Turning Point event in the immediate aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death, and she got asked. She was answering questions from Turning Point students, and I thought she gave a great answer to this. She was asked by someone who said, there's so many podcasters, influencers, people we're getting our news from. How do we know how to trust? We hear things sometimes that sound crazy, but we don't know whether it's crazy. Who should we trust? And Megyn Kelly had, I'm going to use this answer all the time. I thought it was a great answer. She said, pick two people who you trust, and you'll know you should trust them because they will occasionally tell you something that you don't want to hear, something that is unhelpful for your side. They'll give you the truth they'll give you the facts. They'll tell you something you don't want to hear. And if they can do that, then that's someone you should trust. If they never do that, then you should be suspicious of them. I think that's really good advice.
That's a fine piece of advice, but I also think that another layer to that is to make sure that you do your own research. Like somebody who's you and I having dialogue and talking about something is one thing, but the facts of the matter still remain. And I know sometimes it's hard to find the facts because you believe there's a big bias and it's hard to find the facts.
But easily distinguish.
But maybe
facts
like even to somebody, I would say, let's say like when Obama used to speak, I worked at MSNBC every time he had a press conference. I used to turn on my own network, and then I used to go to Fox and see what they said about it. And the same event was presented so differently that even I was blown away. Like,
well, I think that's a healthy tendency to
But
watch.
I used to do that.
Yeah,
so, but intentionally, and I was like, wait, okay, so this is a little dramatized.
No one's watching TV.
This is a little bit incorrect and dramatized, but I still came to my own opinion. I'm like, wait, okay, so people who lived this experience have said this as I talk to my friends. So everything doesn't have to be that detailed of a conversation. Like, right, if Pfizer's going to drop the price, like we talked about today, they're dropping the price. We'll see if it happens or not. But some conversations require a lot of detail in order to back up like some erroneous claim. Like if you're talking about Candace Owens and she's your trusted source, just go to the opposite of her and figure out what they're saying and find out where you lie in the opinion of it all. Or if you want the facts of it all, go to several people and figure out what your answer is.
Yeah, well, by all means, listen to Candace. And then listen to someone else who's gonna say, well, okay, but here's the parts of that don't quite add up. And do that for us. Do that for everyone. It's all fine by me. ICE has arrested the superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, which is the largest school district in Iowa. Immigration officials say Superintendent Ian Roberts has been living in the country illegally and was found in possession of a loaded handgun.
Now, ICE posted a breakdown of the situation on its website saying, quote, during a targeted enforcement operations, officers approached Roberts in his vehicle after identifying himself, but he sped away. Officers later discovered his vehicle abandoned near a wooded area. State Patrol assisted in locating the subject, and he was taken into ICE custody. It goes on to say, quote, Roberts has existing weapon possession charges from February 5th, 2020. Roberts entered the United States on a 1999 student visa and was given a final order of removal by an immigration judge in May of 2024. Now, according to the district's website, Roberts was hired as a superintendent in 2023. He previously spent more than 20 years as an educator and school leader in several other states. He actually ran for the Olympics in his home country of Guyana.
Roberts has been placed on administrative leave while he is detained. The district is facing major backlash online for hiring him, but of course insists it did not know about his removal order. Interim Superintendent Matt Smith writes, "I want to be clear, no one here was aware of any citizenship or immigration issues that Dr. Roberts may have been facing. The accusations ICE has made against Dr. Roberts are very serious, and we are taking them very seriously." A new wrinkle in the story, Fox News, as well as columnist Dustin Grage, are reporting that Roberts has an active voter status and has been registered to vote as a Democrat in Maryland. Fox's article on the matter says, quote, Republican state delegate Matt Morgan, who's chair of the Maryland House Freedom Caucus, told Fox News Digital that Roberts' registration means he is eligible to vote in all federal, state, and local elections, despite not being a U.S. citizen, and also despite likely not having lived in Maryland for the past decade. Well, voter fraud, Lindsay. They keep saying it never happens. How interesting.
Well, because you have one example of something doesn't mean it's running rampant.
I have two.
Okay, but because you have two in a world full of thousands of Americans doesn't mean accumulate thousands and then have a case study and we'll discuss it. But my biggest question when I read the story was Roberts a great man? Did he teach the students incredibly? Were they deeply impacted by his presence? So, yes, let's remove the great superintendent who's doing great things for our kids' lives and get him out of. No, it was a hunting rifle, and they knew about it. It was disclosed as a weapon charge related to his hunting rifle before he even got accepted for the job. So this is what's being reported out there, that they already knew that he had a hunting weapon charge and was not supposed to have possession of it. So listen, the school district and
if you have an illegal weapons charge, you're not supposed to subsequently have any weapons.
I'm just telling you.
They
said they still knew about his weapon charge, so that wasn't breaking news to them. Now with the new handgun, that's an actual problem.
If you even chew your Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun, they expel you from school. So it's a little.
So the DHS is describing him as a quote criminal alien and saying that he's a public safety threat. But the school board, like the president of the entire Des Moines Public Schools, Jackie Norris, said Roberts was a quote integral part of our school community, that he consistently showed up for kids and staff, and so those sounds like an honorable man. And like you said, if anybody digs through anything, we talked about this needle in a haystack yesterday to try to find something to take you down, they'll take you down.
No, they won't find illegal weapons charges.
You said that anybody tries to find a needle in a haystack, they can find a reason to charge you.
They'll get you on something they'll get you on obstruction, perjury.
So let's say your kid was learning brilliantly
in an interview.
Let's say your
maybe having signed some form, some kind of financial issue. They won't get you on illegal guns charges unless you have illegal guns. Let's say
your kid was having a brilliant, well-educated life under Roberts, and he was such a prestigious part of your schooling for your kid, and it was really amazing for some parents, which seems to be the experience for the president of the school board to speak up in this way. Would you be a little bit sad that this man who had an incredible positive influence on the schooling of 30,000 kids is now being removed because ICE is on some weird vendetta?
I'm sad that an illegal immigrant was voting.
From personal. That's the biggest issue to you, rather than somebody who's.
Do you not concede that that's an issue?
For sure, he shouldn't be voting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but but we're talking about
removing
a man out of a
voted twice, they could charge me with a crime.
Fox News found this. We'll see the research. We'll point it out. I'll read the whole article later today. Make sure it has validity. We can park that joint right there. And separately, we can talk about how a man who had an incredible influence got removed from a school
because
that
he had an incredible.
This is what the president of Des Moines School District said. Jackie Norris. I just named the lady. She has a direct proximity to that man. I'm just reading a quote.
Wow,
I'm not
what
saying.
A guy.
Yeah, she said, like, if somebody asks me about you and I say, what a guy, like, you can base it off my experience. I work with you every single day.
I don't have a loaded handgun despite being prohibited from having weapons.
Okay, so.
And I didn't vote illegally.
So this was the type of immigrant that you wanted removed when President Trump said we want all criminals. This is the type of criminal you were talking about, yes?
He has.
I'm making sure. This is the type of criminal, a leader of a school district who's doing a great job according to the president of the school district. You want him removed because he had a hunting gun charge, which made him not eligible to have a handgun and had one in his home.
And he voted illegally. So that's two things.
Forget the voting part. I'm talking about, would you want that teacher removed?
He did vote illegally, so yes, I want him removed.
So that's the criminal that you wanted when Trump was like, I'm on the campaign trail, I want criminals out of here. That's the type of guy.
He fled from law enforcement.
Because he probably knows he's supposed to get out of here in 2024.
Don't flee from law enforcement. It creates dangers for yourself, for law enforcement, and for other people. Don't ever flee from. You can't just flee. We're trying to stop you. You can't just run. You can't do that. Can't do that.
So he broke the law, so he needs to go.
Well, that's 3 laws.
That's your
Fleeing
strike.
from law enforcement, voting illegally, loaded handgun despite prior weapons charge. No dice.
Look, I understand.
See ya.
Rules are rules.
Gone.
I'm very much
Gone.
I'm very much a rule follower, right? My friends call me a
Gone.
Poindexter in that way. But I do believe this man was an upstanding community man, and people have
Except for the gun
been
charge,
worse.
fleeing arrest, and illegally voting.
Well, this is what the Des Moines school district said his experience was in the school.
Well,
I'm talking about a man getting arrested right after school and them chasing him down to get him out of the country because of his status as a migrant, as opposed to the fact that he voted. That's not why they were after him. So
we can find nice things to say about literally anyone. Hitler was a terrific painter.
No, come on.
So whatever. Like,
that's not. I think that comparison is ridiculous. Hitler.
it was a ridiculous.
That's a ridiculous. Thank you. That's a ridiculous
I'm just
comparison.
saying, the fact that somebody said something nice about him doesn't mean that he gets to stay in the country illegally after violating numerous other rules.
Okay, well, I'm glad that they're going to do whatever their next steps are, and I'm really excited for them to find the students a superintendent who seemingly,
I really don't
according to
appreciate
the
when
president,
people run for
cared
police.
as much as.
High-speed chases are dangerous. If the police shoot at you, they could. I mean, I'm not trying to take all the responsibility away from the police because they sometimes pursue people in ways that are reckless for third parties. But there's no right to flee from the police, so don't do that.
For sure, we can agree about that.
Yeah.
We can agree that he shouldn't have been voting if he does not, and
voting.
specifically in Maryland is even more random. We agreed to several things here, but like I said,
That's
my
a lot of
first initial thought,
sketchy stuff
my
here.
first initial thought was, wow, 1999 to 2025 made it all the way up in several school districts to be a leader that has been recommended by the president of the school district. But then so maybe you want digital IDs to come back then. That'll solve your problems here, and then we'll make sure that somebody who is apparently well-meaning and getting through all these different accolades in his career to lead 30,000 kids, it won't happen. Even if you might be qualified for the job or good for the job, because you're a migrant, you won't have that digital ID, and then we'll skip over all these issues. So maybe you should change your perspective on that.
ID, no.
So how do you want to solve this then? Just have the federal government doing what they're doing, just continue on this way.
We're solving it.
And in the meantime, getting all in the meantime, cutting out all the farm workers and cutting out all the
I don't want to cut out the farm workers.
Yeah, but it's all in one. It's all in one clump.
The superintendent who's thrice a felon. I mean, there's got to be some kind of. You got to meet me halfway here. I don't. This has got to go. He's got to go.
I really don't believe that by having had that experience and holding the love and support and views that I have mean that I can't and don't treasure Joe. I hope people who don't agree with my opinion will love me, and I hope I can keep loving people who I don't necessarily share the same opinion with.
Emma Watson speaking there on her fractured relationship with Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling. It was a surprising take from the former child star who's previously spoken out against Rowling's stances on transgender issues.
But any idea that Watson and Rowling would mend their relationship was quickly put to bed after Rowling made a lengthy, scathing post about Watson's comments on her X account. Rowling writes in part, quote, "Like other people who've never experienced adult life uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life, she's ignorant of how ignorant she is. I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing that book that made Emma famous. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the trashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges." Rowling ended it with, "Had Emma not decided in her most recent interview to declare that she loves and treasures me, a change of tack I suspect she's adopted because she's noticed full throttle condemnation of me is no longer quite fashionable as it was, I might have never been this honest." In response to Rowling's post, Teen Vogue's official account addressed the author's lengthy response to Watson on Blue Sky, writing simply, "We are begging J.K. Rowling to find a new way to spend her time."
Former host of The View, Megyn McCain, applauded her, writing on X, "J.K. Rowling is a fearless icon who has risked her entire career, safety, and social clout for the sake of keeping our kids safe, women safe, and calling out the science fiction insanity claims that there are more than two genders. I'm grateful for her. Have no interest in anything associated with Emma Watson, who can stay at the pitchfork party she helped throw."
This is really sad to see. Like Hermione Granger is like this. I know we weren't going to see any more Harry Potters anyway, but I know they can't work it out. Like they spent years on sets together. Like even if you and I have the most disagreement, at the end of the day, the baseline I think is just a respect thing. They should have worked together in a respectful way. She was 14 at the first time, like she said.
Emma Watson started it though, and that's why now J.K. Rowling, her feelings are a little too hurt.
Yeah.
Because what Emma Watson was saying there was conciliatory, and J.K. Rowling is clearly still hurt. Many of the Harry Potter actors, in particular Emma Watson and I think Daniel Radcliffe, who played Harry Potter, were most outspoken in not just disagreeing or expressing a different view from J.K. Rowling, but specifically criticizing J.K. Rowling for holding those views. And it clearly hurt her that these young people she mentored, gave everything. If I owed my entire career and millions of dollars to someone I strongly agreed with, I still wouldn't criticize them in public. I wouldn't do it. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't think I can bring myself to do it.
People honestly wanted to know what they thought. They're the people that we know in the public eye are some of the closest to Rowling, and she was being very vocal about one specific issue to almost the level of obsession. And people were like, wanted to know how they respond. Fine, but people wanted to know, since she's inserted herself and she's not like doing a one-on-one interview with us at this moment, how do you feel about this issue? Maybe you guys all talked about it on set. I think that's a valid question from the people or journalists that might have been asking them questions, and for them to respond maybe one time on social media or say how they felt, because that would be a natural question because of the proximity that these actors had to Rowling and how heightened the time was politically about it.
Rowling's views on transgender issues often gets mischaracterized how extreme they are. I mean, her view is she supports non-discrimination and equal treatment and accommodation for trans people. I think, correct me if I'm wrong. She doesn't want biological men in women's spaces and women's sports. She doesn't want the erasure of the category of women. She thinks trans women belong to a separate category that should still be accommodated and should still is worthy of dignity, but should not overwhelm the category of womanhood itself. That's her view. That is probably the view of most people. So I don't know why it's necessary. She certainly tweets a lot about it, but
let's say that
maybe her level of interest in the issue is unusual, but it's not an unusual perspective.
You said if you were Emma Watson, you certainly wouldn't like smack the hand.
I would shut up.
You wouldn't even do that, right? She made you famous, hands down. That's a fact. Now, the people who made Harry Potter the success that it was were readers. And if a large swath of your readers are getting offended by your statements, and if some of your readers, I'm assuming, were transgender or in the community that aligns, maybe you would consider feeling like Robbie feels and like, well, if they're lining my pockets, it may be this one of the most best-selling authors of all time, the people who disagree with my stance and the people who might be of the community, maybe I should chill because these people done line my pockets so I came out of poverty to extreme wealth. That's why a lot of people want politics to stay out of entertainment. This was one of the most entertaining people. I mean, you've argued that you don't want to see people walk up to stages and give speeches about the current political climate when you're watching the Emmys or the Oscars.
Well, that applies to Rowling and Emma Watson.
Who wants to see their favorite author giving such a particular stance on an issue that the country is not even settled about? I mean, people are still trying to figure out how to even have a conversation about this.
This is the normal conservative experience, is to see constantly artistic creators, actors and actresses, writers weighing in on issues, right, on talk shows, at award ceremonies, on Twitter all the time. You know, I think Mark Ruffalo's a great actor. Love Mark Ruffalo. Love him in everything he's ever been in. His views are stupid and wrong and anathema to and he's always spouting off about them. And I just gotta go, oh well, I think that's stupid, but I love the actor. That's the normal experience for people of a right-leaning disposition. So there's this one person who on this one issue loudly expresses ideas that overlap with the right, and it's a huge problem, even though we have to experience that, or people on the right have to experience that constantly. Do you see how that seems?
Look, you're a fair point. I'm just saying, if I knew where my money was coming from an audience that really wants me to be pretty apolitical, I would continue to make my money as a businesswoman. You know, I just feel like that's the name of the game you're playing. Otherwise, you might care about, let's say, this particular issue more than you care about selling books anymore. And she rightfully can feel that way too, because I'm pretty sure, I don't want to miscalculate, if not a multimillionaire, she's way way up there in the hundreds of millions, so she doesn't really have to be concerned with anybody purchasing not one more book or watching one more stream of her movie.
And Rowling has said there's no ideological test for working with her, that she will work with actors and actresses she doesn't agree with on this issue. She holds no desire to silence them or stop them from expressing their opinion. I think she remains interested in the integrity of the art for its art's sake and the business of Harry Potter without having some political agenda about it. So in that respect, she's.
But as an adult, wouldn't you like to see, in the same way that you in the last segment said, I'd love to see, like, if Ta-Nehisi Coates was somebody you were speaking to or speaking about, you still would show a level of decorum just because that's you, right? That's what how you mentioned it. Wouldn't you like to see these two people that are professionals not wait till the day of the end of time for them to say something nice about one another? Because that's probably what will happen. She changed my life. She was already saying it now. The younger woman in the situation, Emma Watson, is extending an arm.
That
olive
is my
branch.
one bit of pushback, because what Emma said there was a little bit conciliatory. And I would have liked to see Rowling react more favorably. But again, we're seeing the public. We don't know what was said between the two in private. In that, it was a long tweet Rowling put out where she talked about. She said, "Well, she's got my number. She could text me."
And I definitely hate that. Don't put anything public. Call me.
Don't just talk.
Call me directly.
Let's
talk if you really want to solve something.
But yeah, I hope they bury the hatchet. I hope they work again, rather than this new Harry Potter series they're working on, which I'm sure is going to be fantastic. But like they cast the same actor to play Flitwick.
A different character.
No, or he's going to play somebody else. No, I think
no,
he's playing the same Warwick Davis, who's great. But it's like, you're making the guy who's playing Hagrid looks exactly the same. Like, why are we like shot for shot remaking something that was great the first time they did it, and it was in recent memory? We're not like remaking something from the 70s. It was really good, and they've already done it. So why not? Let's do a prequel or a sequel. There's a rich universe we can flesh out. I would like to see a prequel of the Marauders, of Harry's father and young Sirius and young Lupin. That seems like a no-brainer idea.
You need to be at the table in the room brainstorming. We could do a sequel series like old Harry. We bring back Daniel Radcliffe and Hermione. What's his stance? Does he want to work with her or no?
Well, they have this feud, but they should bury the hatchet to create new and interesting and different products in this universe, rather than remake the same thing they already did, and it was perfectly fine the first time they did it.
And
that's my
key
pet
point,
peeve.
It's not from the 70s, according to Robbie.
Yeah, I'm just so sick of remaking things that were fine. Anyway. A massive comedy festival is currently underway in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The 2-week-long festival features some of comedy's biggest names: Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Louis C.K., Kevin Hart, just to name a few.
But the event has been widely criticized, including by other comments, for being held in Saudi Arabia. Notably, comedian Dave Cross drew attention for a statement on his website condemning those who are participating. It reads in part, quote, "I'm disgusted and deeply disappointed in this whole gross thing that people I admire with unarguable talent would condone this totalitarian fiefdom for what, a fourth house, a boat, more sneakers? You're performing for literally the most oppressive regime on earth." Cross went on to say that comedians performing at the festival should never complain about cancel culture again. Some comedians, such as Shane Gillis, reportedly turned down offers to be part of the festival, with Gillis saying, quote, "I took a principled stand," and Tim Dillon said he was dropped from the lineup for making jokes about Saudi Arabia's poor human rights record.
The event is being held as part of the Middle Eastern countries' development plan known as Saudi Vision 2030. The plan seeks to diversify its economy and make it a world-leading nation. When announcing the Riyadh Comedy Festival back in July, the Saudi press agency said, quote, "The festival is the largest of its kind globally, bringing together a selection of award-winning comedy stars known for their outstanding performances on international stages and streaming platforms. It reflects the efforts to amplify Riyadh's status as a leading destination for major cultural and artistic events." This is interesting. I actually have some complicated feelings about this. I appreciate David Cross, who people know from Arrested Development, that's Tobias, speaking out and saying that there's some hypocrisy here, and we would making nice jokes for a repressive regime, and how can you live with yourself? That's actually kind of contrary to, he's a very liberal, progressive guy, so he's actually like being true to his principles and saying, they're repressive on free speech, they're repressive to gay people, etc. Saudi Arabia is not, however, the most totalitarian country on earth. That would be like North Korea, probably. it's not.
They have tiers of which events they can go. If they do North Korea, that would be where the buck stops for you.
Well, but I'm for, and here's where, again, it gets complicated. I'm for engagement, even with totalitarian countries, because I don't think totally ignoring them necessarily makes them less free. The hope is that as they would be exposed, we'd have a comedy festival, they'd be exposed, the people of Saudi Arabia, to more American culture, American comedic figures. And even if the comedians can't specifically make fun of the regime, the people become more favorably disposed. Oh, look at these people celebrating free speech. Isn't America great? It makes people in more repressive countries more favorable toward America. And this used to be the theory that it would lend itself toward a process of liberalization, that they would then demand more American free speech kind of norms from their government. That's what we obviously thought was happening with China throughout the 80s and the 90s. Now there's been backsliding, and that's not happening so much anymore. It did really work with the Soviet Union. As more Western culture permeated the Soviet Union, that whole thing collapsed. Yeah. So I'm not necessarily for just blackballing them because they won't let you make jokes about the regime. So I don't know. I don't. Honestly, I'm not sure that I have a problem with Bill Burr or whoever else participating in this. Yeah, I don't know that I have a problem with it.
I mean, I think he's calling it like he sees it. That's the
statement,
statement works, right? I think that the answer to a lot of these questions is just money. Like Saudi Arabia has been, from the outside looking in, as a place that can pay bills in a way that the U.S. wasn't even offering something comparable. If you look at the Live golf tournament and the way that they built that up, and that was criticized, and now it seems like America's in partnership with that entire golf event now. And it was, I mean, when it first came out, it was the worst thing in the world that even one American player would decide to go play golf with them. And so I think that it's just a nuanced conversation, especially when you have our president who's doing business in Saudi Arabia, or his son now taking over. I think there's a larger conversation. And they also are intentionally trying to look at the way that they, even in the same perspective as the UAE, the way that they bring in tourism. Yeah. They have opened up and changed a lot of things to make it more appetizing to international tourists who look at it as this restrictive regime. But my thing is always, are the internal policies starting to match and become more open-minded as you are welcoming tourists in? Because if the American, let's say that's the goal audience, experiences to come there and be free and, have this best expression of themselves like we do see in the Middle East often, if that's not replicated by the people that live there, or if we're missing a big picture, then anybody who advocates for equal opportunities in the U.S., then you do look like a hypocrite.
Well, right, and China is providing a powerful counterexample because not in order to get access to Chinese markets, not only are we not necessarily exporting liberalism to them, Chinese totalitarianism is almost is osmosising, that's not a word, into our own country because, for instance, for basketball players now won't say anything bad about China. LeBron James, ugh.
The best.
Sucks.
The best.
I hate him.
The best.
Oh,
he's just the best.
He's a simp for dictatorship.
Excuse me?
Awful. I hate
LeBron is the best.
No, he loves.
How can you be a LeBron hater? Look at it. He's the epitome of black excellence. His wife Savannah is amazing.
He's an apologist.
He understands young culture. He just was on Kai Cenat's Twitch stream. He's like the most streamed person available. And he said something amazing. He was giving all the young kids advice who grew up from different experiences like he has. He's just an amazing, well-rounded person.
Awful.
So if we said one bad thing about China, okay, that doesn't.
He can't say anything bad about China, which is the problem. So if that's how this works, I mean, I don't know. These are some difficult calls. Like, what if Saudi Arabia came to us and said, Robbie Lindsay, we want to host a Rising Live event and there'll be studio audience and they'll listen to Americans debate about issues and we'll get to model how free speech works, but they'll say, but you can't say anything about Saudi Arabia.
I'm out of there. Yeah, we're doing it. If you're not doing it, I'm replacing you. I'm taking that check.
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Honest,
Alex is coming with me. You can call us with me.
It's your question whether that would be, a freedom enhancing thing for us to do it even with some limitations, or would it not be? I think this is genuinely a complicated thing. The effect that China is having shows that it's obviously not just, automatically do it, because if they're then reaching back into your home country and causing you to not say things bad about them.
I guess I'd have to comb through all of the comedians and see how much quote-unquote virtue signaling they've done. And then if their entire legacies are attached to...
They're all against cancel culture and censorship and all that. This is Chappelle, Bill Burr, they don't want to be silenced.
I know with Chappelle that they had the whole thing with the trans community.
Being silenced by trans activists. Yeah. But
and if
I don't know.
But you can
That's
say the
tough.
same thing if the president is wholly started or connected to the movement of being against cancel culture and then doing business in Saudi Arabia. That's like the biggest, most expensive example.
Maybe Tim Dillon has
that.
it right. He was like, oh yeah, of course I'll do it, but you can't tell me what I'm going to say. Oh, if you're going to tell me what I'm going to say, then never mind.
Well,
Maybe
it says
that's the
somebody's
right way to
contract
do it.
got canceled. That when we
Right,
were
Tim
doing
Dillon.
Oh yeah,
I
so
know him. He's
you're
great.
saying that's probably the reason because he was like had morals about it.
He's great. So
Well, I actually want to
that's the right way
see
to do
the actual show when if it's recorded at all, because if the jokes are like very much mild, Chappelle is never mild. So for example, so if he comes back and this is like some ABC very not offending anybody, then come on now.
Is it going to be? I don't know if the jokes are going to be. I don't know what Riyadh is like. I can't even imagine. Is it very westernized? Is it
I don't know. I know that
they speak English because I don't think Bill Burr speaks Arabic.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to perform. I mean, unless everybody learns Arabic in a couple of days, I'm pretty sure they're going to perform in English.
That seems unlikely.
We'll see.